Today's show is sponsored by the Electric Vehicle Association. Join up to support the electrification of transport and get the help you need to finance your own EV or clean energy future.
And by Energy Sage. Visit the link in the description to find local verified solar experts, community projects, and heat pump specialists in your area.
And by Atmos Financial. Bank better with a financial technology company that's powered by a portfolio of clean energy investments.
Welcome back to another episode of TEN Transport Evolved News. Thanks for joining us.
This is not any other episode of TEN though, is it, Nikki?
No, we are live here for episode 500 at Everything Electric Vancouver. We are here live on our stand, so if you are watching this on a Saturday morning when it happens to go live online, and then you're wondering what to do today on a lovely Saturday in Vancouver, come down to the convention hall and join in the fun. There's still time to come and say hello.
Now, because we're live on set here at an event, things are going to be a little bit different. First up, I'm here, which is awesome,
Which
obviously.
is great, yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, but there's not going to be quite so much in the way of B-roll.
No, unfortunately, there's not going to be any B-roll really to talk about because we don't have it. But we're going to start by talking about a piece of news that's not necessarily great for the EV world. Volvo is going back on its pledge to become an all-electric brand by 2030. Volvo now says, and this is a quote, "Changing market forces will mean that it will continue to produce both plug-in and maybe even mild hybrid vehicles beyond its original all-electric goal of 2030.
That's not ideal. I mean, I feel like things are not looking great on the climate front, and maybe we should be going faster, not slower.
And it's a real shame, because here at Everything Electric, we have a Volvo EX30 outside in the experience zone. So if you're coming to the event and you want to have a test drive of an EX30, not available in the US yet, but here in Canada right now, you can take it for a test drive. And I think it's probably the best of Volvo's electric vehicles coming. But having just got back from California, where we drove the EX90, the 3-row SUV, I wasn't all that impressed, and I know a lot of other people weren't impressed either. So let's talk about Volvo's new goal, which is 90 to 100% of all of its vehicles electrified by 2030, but that kind of final 0 to 10%, depending on how many of the electrified vehicles they make, would be mild hybrids.
I really feel like this is a place where governments need to step up and start encouraging automakers to make this transition. They've known since the 60s that this was a problem that was coming up. They've had plenty of time to think about it. Now is the time to say, no, you've got to get with the program.
But there is a kind of a silver lining here, because Volvo has just announced its new EV, the EX60, which is going to be built on a brand new platform for Volvo, and it will be like the future of Volvo's electrification platform. Do we trust it? Only time will tell. You've got a story now, Kate.
Yeah, so this is actually some good news. J.D. Power's EV index shows that EV interest in the US is at an all-time high. Over a quarter, so about 28% of new car buyers said that they were very likely to go electric for their next car, which is really great news. Like, having more than a quarter of new car buyers wanting an EV, that is amazing.
Yeah, we've talked about the slow transition, and there's been a lot of frustration about the price, specifically the affordability of new EVs. But as we've seen the price of EVs drop, the price of used EVs drop as a consequence, we're now seeing more people in lower income brackets being able to afford an EV. If you bought an EV in the last 12 months, as our DP Michael did, it hurts because they're paying higher interest rates and on a vehicle that was much more expensive 12 months ago. For everyone else, it's great news. And of course, with new cars, there's this thing they call the EV price parity index, right?
Yeah, and it's hit 56 out of 100 on that, which is definitely progress towards price parity with gas cars, and that's really important. But I think also, as you were saying, the market for used EVs has grown because a lot of cars have come off lease. and that has made access to EVs much more affordable for people.
It's a real shame we're not seeing more affordable new cars, and I think that will come in time. But sadly, following the good news, we've now got some more bad news, which is that Toyota has slashed its EV production plans by 30%. Granted, Toyota has never had massive EV production plans in many markets, but it's worth remembering that in China, Toyota does sell many more EVs, and in other markets, EV sales are still pretty high for Toyota. We just don't see them in North America all that much. So Toyota is going to slash its EV production by 500,000 cars between now and 2026 compared to its original plans. So it's going to start, originally it was going to do 1.5 million or 2 million in total. So now it's going to do 400,000 between now and 2025, the end of next year, 400,000 EVs, and then it wants to do about 1 million in 2026. But in that time frame, it's cut off an additional 500,000.
I think this is really interesting because we're seeing this at the same time as we're seeing more barriers to entry to North America, to Europe for cheaper vehicles coming from China. And this means that the automakers can get away with doing this because the access to vehicles is so much reduced.
So we'll talk about that a little bit later in the show, but we've got like this double whammy going on right now because Chinese automakers are petitioning against all of the tariffs that are coming in. But the mainstream automakers are going, oh, nobody wants to buy an EV, which is, as we just said with the JD Power story, patently false, right?
I mean, I think this is one of those things where younger people are interested in buying an EV. I mean, they're not so interested in buying a vehicle, but they're interested in, if they do, buying an EV, but there aren't any in their price range, so then they just don't buy anything.
And it's really, really sad. All right.
Happier news. Hyundai have updated the IONIQ5. It now comes with a NACS adapter. Well, actually, no, I lied, sorry. It has a NACS socket, so you don't need an adapter.
Sorry. Woo! Is that energetic enough?
Yeah, that's super energetic. The only slight fly in that ointment is we still don't actually have a date for Hyundai having access to the NACS network. And also, NACS doesn't charge at 800 volts, so it will charge slower on the network than it did before with CCS1. And you'll need an adapter to charge with CCS1.
So importantly here, NACS can, and I know I was really sarcastic, and I know there'll be lots of people getting very upset with me because I was a little bit sarcastic about NACS. I have always maintained that NACS is not the problem. The NACS versus CCS is not the problem. The problem with our charging networks has always been lowest bid wins mentality.
Yeah.
We're not building an infrastructure in the right way around the world, and instead of doing it based on which of these infrastructures will last the longest, have the lowest downtime, and be the most reliable, we are focusing on how much money can we make off of this and how little money can we put into the technology. And that's why we are where we are at now with NACS and CCS. I'm worried that if you buy an IONIQ5 from Hyundai now, you are boxing yourself in to the NACS ecosystem. And with all of the things that have been happening with Tesla and Elon Musk and the firing of the supercharger team and everything else, yes, it does mean that IONIQ5 owners won't need an adapter to use a supercharger. But like you said, it will be slower.
It will. And I think, look, I can be snarky as hell about NACS. I do think that the connector is nicer to use, and I think that the CCS1 connector has some design issues. I think that it is good that we are reaching a point where the US and Canada have one standard for charging. I think that's great. But yeah, it's really problematic at this point when we still don't actually have dates. We don't have timelines for them gaining access. We have a vehicle with a connector that you can't actually use.
Only time will tell. I hope that we are proven wrong. But so far, we haven't been. And talking to people in the industry who had said, oh, we'll all be supercharging by now. We're now September. By this point, we were supposed to have GM, Ford, Polestar, Rivian, potentially Hyundai, Kia. And we're still kind of only a quarter of the way through that list.
Yeah.
But hey, if you want to go on a long distance trip and you have a big, heavy, long distance EV that is capable of towing a travel trailer or a caravan, good news if you are a fan of the Pebble Flow EV. So Pebble is not the watch company, which are awesome. I have a Pebble watch.
I saw this in the list and I was like, they're doing what now? And then I went, oh, no.
So I used to own a Pebble. It now belongs to Michael. I gave it to Michael. Michael is a total watch nerd. So if you are here at the event and you want to come and show Michael a really cool watch, come show Michael a really cool watch. Michael loves watches. Like, can tell you more about watches than I think I can tell you about EVs. Anyway, not the company Pebble that makes the watch, but the other company called Pebble, the one that makes trailers, has opened its new factory where it will make its Flow EV. Now you can have a pre-order for the Flow EV. You have to put down $500. You can lock in a price of $109,000 US for a travel trailer. What makes the Pebble Flow EV different is that you can also include a battery pack and a motor to allow the Pebble Flow EV trailer to essentially assist while you are driving along. So if you've driven an EV with a trailer, you'll know it dramatically impacts your range per charge, and how Pebble has got around that and it's gone, well, we'll just give the trailer a battery pack as well. I think it is an assisted technology. I don't know if that's happening at launch, but you can also use the battery for other things. So you could use it for running your Pebble Flow off-grid as well. So that's really, really useful. It's kind of expensive if you opt for the battery pack. It's $125,000, but in the world of travel trailers, that's not actually ridiculously over expensive.
No, and I think this is something we covered back when they first demoed it, and it's really exciting to see it actually coming into the market, or getting ready to come into the market, like seeing the development progress. That's really cool, and I think this is one of those things where we need different solutions for people who want to travel long distance using an EV and towing. And this is one of those things that progresses that really in a significant way. Well,
we're going to have some more stories to discuss in a moment, but first, a quick word from a long-time video sponsor of the channel, Energy Sage. Energy Sage helps homeowners connect with local, verified solar installers across the US and now heat pump specialists in select markets who really know their stuff and can help you navigate the process of installing solar panels, help you join a community solar program, or in fact, get a heat pump installed. My wife, who's just off camera right now, and I used Energy Sage when we were looking for installers willing to help us put solar panels on the roof of our home. And our Energy Sage verified installers were professional, knowledgeable, and even put us in touch with an amazing credit union that allowed us to finance our solar panels for as low a monthly payment as possible. You can follow the links below to sign up for either of Energy Sage's free, no-obligation services and get that ball rolling today. Plus, if you choose to use an Energy Sage installer for your project, we will also get a small referral fee, so you'll be helping us out too. Help the grid get greener and save money? It's a win-win-win.
Honda's electrified sales are really, really good. And it's not their first quarter of electrified sales, but it is the first quarter when they're actually selling an EV. Because Honda, not quick to market with its EV, and it kind of bought one off the shelf, but it is doing extremely well. It made up, electrified sales made up more than a quarter of its total vehicle sales, which is awesome. That is because it's using a bit of a trick where it's selling hybrids as a higher, more premium brand option. So if you want the nice, fancy sound system, then you kind of have to step up to the hybrid. But the Prologue outsold the IONIQ5 and the EV6. It sold 5,401 units in August alone, which, compared to some other large EV manufacturers, you might not be super excited, but that is really good, particularly for the first quarter of sales.
And you haven't had a chance to drive the Honda yet?
No.
I was lucky enough to go to the Honda launch event earlier this year. We did the global launch event for the Prologue, and I was impressed. I thought it was a great vehicle. It's built on a shared platform with GM. It's the same Ultium-based platform as that basically underpins both the Blazer and the Equinox in slightly different guises. And as far as I'm concerned, the Honda won out in terms of its fit, its finish, and its trim. And I think it really highlighted to me at that point, customers are less concerned about what's underneath and what's going on inside their cocoon, their bubble. If the interior is nice and comfortable, if the infotainment system is intuitive and easy enough to use, if it feels like the vehicle is well built, it makes a big difference. And GM had put all of its money into Ultium platform development, not the interior, into Ultium platform development. And it feels like Honda just came along and went, yeah, we can do better. The inside, there are some GM elements, so there's an OnStar button on the roof, and there are some GM stalks and controls, right? It's inherited those. But the rest of the car just feels so much better. And I can't wait for you and I to have one for a week to test drive. We have asked Honda. They haven't got one on our local fleet yet, but fingers crossed.
Yeah, I'm really excited to experience it, and I think it's true. I mean, buying a car is very much an experience where you go back and you work out the rational reason why that particular model fits, but it's very much about how does it feel, and to an extent, the technology under the car to most people just doesn't matter. As long as it feels well put together, it feels like a nice place to be.
It really does. All right, so let's talk about a slightly larger vehicle now, the F150 Lightning, which I happen to own one of. There's some good news and some not so good news. The good news is that in August, sales of the F150 Lightning went through the metaphorical roof, 160% up year over year for August, which is fantastic news. But sadly, if you compare it to Ford's gasoline F-150 sales, gasoline is still the majority of sales for the F-150 nameplate. And that's a shame, because the F-150 Lightning is the most powerful. It's the quickest F-150 that Ford has made to date. It is incredibly versatile. I mean, my F-150 Lightning brought all of the gear for this studio up here. And I feel like Ford's kind of pushing back a little bit on the Lightning. Not helped this week, by the way, personal story, that my F-150 Lightning's charging station has died. So
the timing on that was impeccable.
It died the day we were going to come up here, and I normally charge to 85%. I told it to charge to 100% by a certain time, and overnight we had really hot weather that day. It just stopped working, so I'm going to have to talk to Ford when I get back. But now down even worse for Ford is that Ford has published details for the F-150 Lightning for 2025. And they've got rid of the spare wheel.
I know, that's a bizarre decision, because one of the big things when they designed the F-150 Lightning, when they first launched it, was like, it comes with a spare wheel because people who buy pickups, they want a spare wheel.
And that spare wheel is now an optional extra. If you want a spare wheel on your F-150 Lightning, you can buy it, you can have it fitted, but it is an extra fee that you're going to have to tack onto your vehicle. Also extra fees is the mobile charging connector, which I got for free with my original F-150 Lightning, and then I transferred that over to my current one. And the NACS adapter now comes as part of that mobile charging kit. So if you want NACS compatibility, you basically have to buy the portable charging unit. It comes with an NACS adapter to allow you to use Tesla superchargers, which feels like a smart move, but it's also a little nickel and dimey from Ford, and I hoped that Ford would do better with that. There's a huge number of changes to 2025 model year in terms of trim, deletions, and additions. Some of the technology packages have changed. There's also now 11 kilowatts maximum fast charging at home, or level 2 charging at home rather. and you can't get dual chargers if you are what they call a retail customer. So you walk into a garage and try and buy one, you have to have 11 kilowatts max, which is very, very slow for a vehicle that averages between 2 and 3 miles per kilowatt hour, which is 3 to 4 kilometers per kilowatt hour, and has a 131 kilowatt hour battery pack in its extended range, guys.
Yeah, frankly, that charger change, that feels like a bizarre decision.
But if you're a pro customer, you can still get the big battery and the dual chargers.
Yeah.
So there are lots of people in the F150 Lightning owners community who are heavily into modding. There was a guy who put cruise control, like the adaptive cruise control, on his Lightning Pro. Other people have put like the door panel locks, which by the way is also a dealer fit option for 2025. You can't have that little keypad anymore. You have to have it added after the fact, which again, nickel and diming.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those ways where they can reduce the... it's one of those ways in which they can make some more money because, we still aren't at cost parity for these, and they're desperately trying to sneak some extra savings in for them that cost the consumer a bit more.
The ridiculous nature, though, here is that of all of the vehicles that are on the market right now that are electric pickups, the F-150 Lightning was the only one, and the Rivian as well, the R1T. They were the two only vehicles that you could really easily get a spare wheel fitted and not have it impact your load carrying capability. So the Tesla Cybertruck, the Silverado, and of course the Silverado sibling, so the Sierra Denali EV, and also the Hummer EV, they all require you to carry your spare in the bed, which if you're buying a pickup truck for pickup truck reasons, is not very practical, and it just reinforces the whole too many people are buying pickup trucks to drive to and from work, and we need to really make that socially unacceptable.
Yeah, we definitely do. I mean, I think that when you look at accident statistics, and we've talked about this before, it's really very damaging to have these kinds of very large vehicles used as daily drivers.
Yeah.
But it does speak to the fact that they were expecting these to be sold primarily to pick up drivers, and maybe they're seeing more people now buying them as more leisure vehicles.
But Ford's own statistics has shown again and again and again that Lightning pickup truck owners do more truck things with their pickups than regular F-150 gasoline-powered truck owners do. So if you have a diesel or a gasoline-powered F-150, you use your truck for truck work stuff less than if you have an F-150 Lightning, and the evidence I've seen totally backs that up. And I'm not just talking about my own personal experiences. But hey, if we talk about that, people will accuse us of being socialists, Kate.
Well,
or possibly even communists.
Well, people often accuse me of being a communist.
But the next story is about China.
It is. Our next story is about China and the tariffs, and we talked about this last week. Well, you talked about this last week. But this week, China took its concerns about tariffs not in Europe, which it did last week, but in Canada. So Canada's new tariffs, which were 100% on EVs imported from China, where they were built in China, China's not happy about that. So they have gone to the WTO and said this is a breach of WTO rules. This, again, is a problem, and we need this addressed, and that Canada needs to be in line with WTO rules and not be taxing both cars and metal produced in China in that uneven way.
The challenge with tariffs, as we've talked about, and as we're starting to hear in political circles, right? We've heard the Democratic Party talking about this a lot. Tariffs are taxes on people buying products. They're not tariffs on companies importing products. Now, tariffs can sometimes work if you pair them with incentives. So if these countries, China, the US, Europe, we started to see incentives and partnerships with Chinese firms to say, hey, come over here, build a factory here in whichever country you're in, and if you agree to invest X amount of money into our local economy, we will help you with tax rebates and abatements. You guarantee you're going to offer X number of people a job for X amount of time, that you are going to work with local community colleges and institutions to train up staff so that they can work in a high-skilled, union-paying job in those factories, I would have no problem with it whatsoever. And let's not forget, that's what's now starting to happen. We're seeing MG, we're seeing other companies looking into building factories in new locations in the countries where their vehicles are going to be.
Yeah, and I'm not really averse to subsidies, and I'm not averse to tariffs as a principle.
Yeah.
My issue is that this is a situation that has arisen because China chose to invest in EVs a long time ago, and now everyone else is being, shall we say, grumpy about the fact that they saw the future and when we're going to throw some money at that and get our industries ready.
And you did a really good video this week talking about subsidies. It's very, very fun. Go watch it on the main channel, and hopefully you can learn a little bit about just where the money is going and what's happening to it. Reliance Infrastructure Group in India, they've actually hired a former BYD executive in preparation for building an Indian EV and battery manufacturing facility and industry. Now, there are lots of political challenges right now with India.
Yes,
India's Prime Minister is problematic. Let's just leave it at that.
Yes.
And there are problematic things going on in India. However, if we look past that and we look at the need for every country on this pale blue dot to have their own clean energy and clean transportation infrastructure so that they can build and train local people to work in local facilities on products that are designed for their market, this is good news. And this particular facility, I think it's up to 250,000 batteries and vehicles initially, and then they're going to scale it up to 750,000 vehicles. And they've already run a government contract.
Well, their company that they've split from won a government contract. So they have a contract to produce 10 gigawatt hours of batteries. And then the brothers have split the company, and the second brother, the younger one, is now like, I want in on that.
You know, Kate, that sounds like the plot from a Bollywood film. I mean,
it does. It does. I mean, it depends if they're gonna go head to head against each other. Maybe for the love of a beautiful woman.
And then they'll dance at the end, and everyone will be happy.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it.
That is perfect. What you should look forward to, though, is a word from one of our video sponsors for today, Atmos Financial.
Imagine a bank where your savings not only grow, but also go towards growing a greener world. That's exactly what Atmos Financial does for you. With Atmos, every single dollar in your checking and savings account is funding projects that light up lives with solar energy, not fossil fuels. Atmos is banking that builds a better tomorrow with every swipe of your card, because they are committed to investing 100% in clean, equitable and sustainable progress. With 3.5% savings rates and a mobile app, your finances and the climate go hand in hand. It charges no monthly fees, and there are no minimums keeping you awake at night, and it offers accessible solar loans for those who want to give the fossil fuel industry the ultimate middle finger. By joining Atmos through the link below, you're not only choosing a smarter way to bank, you're planting seeds for a healthier earth, and every single sign-up supports our channel so we can keep bringing you the content you love.
And in fact, I'm a customer, and I love knowing that I'm helping save money while also making sure that my money doesn't end up funding the fossil fuel industry. And thanks again to Atmos Financial for being one of today's video sponsors.
So on to our next story, which is good. It sounds great, and then it's a little less exciting. So LA is going to install 10,000 new charging stations. This is a thing that the mayor introduced a while back, but they've now started to announce contracts, and what they're doing is they're using the energy saved by installing LED street lamps to enable them to install level 2 charging stations on those self-same light poles. This has the advantage that the cables are kind of high up, so they're less prone to being damaged, which is a really exciting thing to have this large rollout. The slightly less exciting thing, they've only got 150 ready to go.
That is great news, but charging deserts. LA is famous for them.
Yeah, we did a video on that a while back, quite a while back now, just charging deserts in general, and I would not want to be the one taking a bet against those chargers going in, well, less well-off areas.
But maybe someone else has thought about that, and obviously we'll keep you all posted once we know more about it. Very often these stories develop, and so there might be some stuff here that we don't know, and it will develop as time goes on. Anyway, NIO has just put up its production figures for Q2, and it sold a record 57,373 EVs in the second quarter. That is a lot more than many other companies around the world. It's not like Tesla record-breaking, it's not BYD record-breaking, but here's the interesting thing. NIO now says it has 40% of the market in kind of the hyper-luxury segment. So it's really super high-end, upper-middle-class Chinese customers. And of course, that particular social group is exploding in size in China right now.
What's going to be interesting is to see how that market share compares in other countries where NIO is selling, like, for example, Norway.
Yeah, and I guess only time will tell.
At the other end of the market, we do have some good news, at least in Korea. Hyundai has launched lower-cost trims of the Ioniq 5, 6 and Kona EV, and it has a new trim level there called the E-Value Plus, which in Korea is selling for around $22,500 after incentives for the sort of most basic
and that's $22,500 US
US
equivalent.
dollars.
Yeah.
Yes, equivalent. And what's really interesting about this is we're seeing this kind of cost downing, but they're actually still maintaining the standard battery pack options. It's all trim deletions that makes that price possible.
It's also worth noting that this week, the EV6 got a new fancy front end and launched in the UK. We should see it come to the US and Canada very soon. So the Korean automakers are tweaking their vehicles and making adjustments, while some of the other brands, particularly North American brands, are just sitting there twiddling their thumbs, or in the case of Volvo, going back and changing their goals. So I genuinely think that Korea is soon going to overtake some other brands as being the primary motive force for EVs, which is surprising given that neither Hyundai nor Kia really put a lot of energy or effort into EVs until a few years ago.
Yeah, and I think what we've seen, and we've talked about this when we've been reviewing the vehicles, is that both Hyundai and Kia, and to a lesser extent Genesis,
which launched a new version of the G80 electrified this week.
Yes, they all are using this as a way to rebrand and shift themselves up in the marketplace. So I don't know whether we'll see those lower trim variants come to the US, which would be a great shame if they don't. But I understand why they're doing this here is because they've traditionally maybe not been seen as vehicles with cachet, and now they are being seen as much more upmarket electric vehicles. And on that note, we're done with today's show.
500 episodes! Thank you to everybody for supporting us this far. It has been incredible. It has been over a decade that we've been doing this particular show, and it's wonderful to be celebrating it here at Everything Electric in Vancouver. It was not planned, but thank you for joining us here, Kate, to do it as well, because I know you don't do this very often.
I do not. I have only done it like 2 or 3 times in the past, so it's been fun.
It's been fun. Anyway, we have many thank yous to give, don't we, Kate?
We do. I think the first one is a huge thank you to the Electric Vehicle Association for sponsoring today's show. They've been advocating for electric vehicles since 1967 and firmly believe that our future depends on us making the switch to clean, green electric cars today. The EVA can help you find someone near you that can help you make the switch to electric. It can also help you become an EV educator and point you in the direction of monthly meetups for like-minded EV fans. And if you become a member, you'll get access to a clean energy and EV loan program set up between the EVA and the Colorado Clean Energy Credit Union. Find out more by heading to the eva.org website.
And thanks to Energy Sage, follow the link below to find out how easy it could be to get verified, trustworthy solar experts helping you make the step towards energy self-sufficiency through solar on the roof of your home, by joining a community solar project, or by getting a heat pump installed. And of course, thanks to Atmos Financial, you can bank better by following the link today.
And if you're someone who made your own transportation or energy greener this week, whatever it was, congratulations!
If you'd like to support the channel directly, please consider supporting us from $1 a month on Patreon, which is about $10.08 a year. We are viewer supported because we believe the information we provide should be free to everyone. So if you do support, thank you. You make this possible, and given that we've had the Airbnb from hell, which I'm sure we'll talk about on Take 2 at some point, you actually helped us not be sleeping in the truck today. So you can also head to our swag store and check out stuff there. We will be back next week as usual with Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday being our content release days. Fingers crossed, because it's been really busy. Anyway, to finish, remember that you are valid and loved, and you have a place in this world, regardless of what rich idiots, religious zealots, large companies, and greedy politicians say. Know that your existence is resistance, and that resistance, if you are able, can be bolstered by making sure that you have registered to vote this year if you're part of the US. It is part of the democratic process to have your say, regardless of whom you ultimately vote for. Normally, I would sign off here and say until next time, stay safe regardless of your identity or who you love, be an amazing ally, be kind, and please, for the sake of everyone's future, keep evolving. But you know what? This is episode 500. And so I'm going to go and stand over here next to Kate, and I'm going to ask the rest of the team to join us.
Yes, you are allowed in front of the camera.
Come on.
Oh my!
This is the silent Kate who doesn't normally appear on camera, but I just want to say, from everybody here at the team, thank you, and until next time, you ready? On 1, 3, 2, 1, keep evolving.